Seahawks fans, wherever you may be. Thanks for listening to the show. Join your hosts, Bill Alvstad and Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Hey, Seahawk fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Keith Myers. This just isn't any episode. This is our 9th annual question and answer and beer tasting show. We love these shows because, quite frankly, about half the questions are football related, but the other half just kind of give insight into both Keith and I. Just nothing's off the table, although we're pretty good at keeping it, within certain parameters. And it's a fun show. And we brought in 3 beers. Keith chose the beer this year as far as the style, and he chose Irish Reds and red ales, and so that'll be great because it kind of fits in right where I'm at when I choose to drink a beer. I like the ambers and the reds. So good job, Keith. Thank you. And it'll be interesting to see what we bring in. Of course, the questions are always interesting. There's a few that repeat, but we try really hard to come up with questions that we haven't asked so far, and it's getting harder and harder every year now. So we'll probably have to repeat this, right? But anyway, welcome in. I love this show because it's so casual and fun, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this show's fun. And yeah, about half of it will be football related. And that's part of the fun too, because we'll get into stuff, but it will still be family friendly, except for the beer part. But we'll keep it clean. Don't worry.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question for you right off the bat.
Yeah.
Something I forgot to ask you to do, but I'm going to ask you right now anyway, because it is such a casual show. I'm going to ask you to turn down your recording volume 2 notches. And I meant to do that before the last show, and I want to make sure that I do it now because you and I are unequal, and it's just an extra step when I'm doing the production stuff. So
done.
Okay. So we made a determination because we shared which beers we got prior to the show, pushing record, and we had one that was the same. So we're going to start with that one. And that it's actually, for me, it's an easier beer to start on because it's so smooth and good. And it's one of my favorites. Actually, it's the Smittix, directly from Ireland, Irish Red. And I enjoy this quite a bit. In fact, I traveled over to Dublin a couple of years ago, and it was definitely my go-to beer when I was there on tap while in Dublin, and just had a great time there. And the beer was just phenomenal. And so every time I get a chance to have it here, I do. Why did you choose it, Keith?
I chose it because, it's Irish Reds and it's from Ireland, and it's
that was the criteria.
There are beers that are Irish Red style, which is, you can find those around. But this one actually was Irish, and they had it available at my local store. So I'm like, it seems like a given. You just got to do it. I haven't.
That was kind of my criteria. Yeah, no, that was my criteria, is I had to be available. And my local store, the Total Wine, just down the street on Camelback and 16th, which maybe some of our listeners will know exactly where that's at. It's about a mile away from my house. They only had 3 Irish Reds in that entire place, and usually, and they sell beer by individual can. They have an entire length of aisle of just cans of beer, and they only had 3 Irish Reds in that whole lot.
All of them were IPAs.
There were quite a few IPAs for sure.
Yeah.
But I did to prep. I had 3 glasses I put in the freezer, and I've got on ice, and I've got these beers in here. So I'm going to have to I get a second to prep on every beer. But I got some ice in my glass. I got to dump that out. Got to find the Smittix. Brought a towel in just in case I had to dry things off just a little bit.
That was not a good pour. A lot of head. So we will wait for that. So while we are prepping for our first taste, let's start with some football questions. And so I had this thought. I'm like, and it kind of came from the series that we just finished, where we were looking at position groups. But I would say if you take the 22 starters, we talk about players being top 5 at their position, or whatever. Who's the closest to the top of that list as far as top player, at their position, in
on
the
entire
NFL
roster? Oh, okay. In the NFL,
closest thing to an All-Pro.
Yeah, I would say Leonard Williams comes to mind very first, like without too much thought. He was very close last year. I think he was an All-Pro. Second overall, as far as the rankings were concerned at his position, I think when it was all said and done, and I think he's there. I think he's got an opportunity in Mike McDonald's defense to be like featured, a guy like Byron Murphy taking up double teams and so forth for him on the inside. Maybe somebody else emerges. Jonathan Hankins kind of diminishing, but there's a couple other players that they like in there. And he's just a guy that is a consummate pro. They love him there. He's a good leader, brings other guys along with him. So for me, I guess that would be the guy on the roster right now that is as close to All-Pro as I think they come. If I was to choose one on the offensive side, I'd probably say Charles Cross. And that probably doesn't speak too loudly for the offense.
Not JSN.
Okay. Yeah, JSN, absolutely, you make an argument for that, but is he top 10 in the entire NFL right now today?
I don't know.
He's got to work into that, I think.
Yeah, Leonard Williams was the obvious answer to that one. And then Ernest Jones Jr. at inside linebacker.
I'm not so sure. I think Ernest Jones is amazing and he's solid and he's perfect for this defense. But you can say this with a lot of different players on this team. I'll be honest with you. I think the roster is solid and good, but I think it's a team defense. It's a team offense. I don't know that there's necessarily a player that's top 5 at each individual position on this entire roster. I mean, yes, Leonard Williams comes the closest. You could talk about Devin Witherspoon as being really close. JSN's kind of close, right? But then what? I mean, what is there? What else? Julian Love could be top 5-ish as a safety, but where else would you look?
You're missing the obvious answer.
Okay,
and that would be the punter.
We seem to ignore those guys, man. The specialists on this team get no love.
The one true All-Pro on the team.
Okay, you got me there for sure. Yeah, Michael Dixon is amazing, and they just re-upped him too, made him the highest paid punter in the league. Well deserved, but do we also need the highest paid punter on our team? I'm not going to complain too much because he's the guy that could bail you out. Mm-hmm. Anytime you really need to be bailed out, if you said, dude, I need you to punt this 70 yards and flip the field, he'd go out and do it. If he said, I need you to make this guy fumble when he tries to catch the ball, he can do that kick.
Yeah, because he can put weird spin on it and make it hard. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's an amazing guy and probably doesn't get as much love as we certainly don't give him any. There's something about us, Keith. Over the years, we have ignored the punter, kicker, and long snapper, and we literally take pride almost in the idea that we only have to mention them like once a year at training camp, right? We like, okay, here's the nod to Michael Dixon. He's a great punter. And then if we had to mention him throughout the rest of the year, it's because of some stupid shank punt that he had in like week 6. Otherwise, he's just doing his job. And if we don't mention you, that means you're doing a good job. Mm-hmm. And same goes for Jason Myers. Although he has an opportunity maybe to win a game. And so his name gets mentioned slightly more than the long snapper, Chris Stoll. There's just no way we're mentioning him as a player unless something weird happens. Terrible. Right?
Yeah.
We had that one long snapper before he had joined, and the guy before him came. We had this 1 year where it was just like, where did this guy come from and why is he on the roster? Because he's ruining games for us. Yeah. I can't even remember his name because he shall not be named anymore.
They finally got rid of him mid-season. Replaced him with Tyler Ott. I remember Tyler Ott's name.
He was good. I like Tyler Ott, actually.
Yep.
Okay. So
that was the strongest starter as far as like where they are. Who is the closest to the bottom if you were to list all the players at their position out of all the 22 starters?
Well, I would say, and you can't even really say this is a starter, but I would just say that the new fullback, whoever ends up being the new fullback, Brady Russell or Robbie Oots, is a guy that is probably not going to get a lot of love. Wouldn't be on anybody's top 10 position.
Aren't they automatically a top 5 at the position because there's only 5 fullbacks in the NFL now?
Right? That is true. Okay. If I was to say, it'd have to be like right guard right now. Like, who's the right guard? And you could throw like 3 different names in there and everyone would kind of go, like, let's just wait till the season starts and we'll figure it out. And that would be Christian Haynes, Anthony Bradford, Bryce Cabledew. You could throw LeMaya in there. He started the last, 4 or 5 games last year and did okay. But they moved him in mini camps to the left side behind Gray Zabel to potentially back up that spot. So I'm not exactly sure where the coaching staff is on those players. We'll find out shortly. I mean, training camp's only 2 weeks away.
That's a great answer. I would say center right next to it is another one. It's hard to put Oluwatimi anywhere in the top half of the league at center.
But I could see him potentially working himself into especially if the entire offense was elevated this year, and the entire offensive line kind of was elevated as far as, the scheme, the blocking style, the outside zone. We end up getting some push. The running backs had success. Sam Darnold had some protection. Those guys could end up being like top 15, and it wouldn't surprise me. And he could be part of that group and just kind of elevated because of that.
Yeah.
So, question for you. How do you like your beer?
It's good. It's nice and smooth and doesn't have a lot of like hoppy bitterness. It's just tasty.
So they said about it, it's founded in Kilkenny in 1710. This beer has been around, I kid you not, for 315 years. And it was held in the Smittix family until 1965, and then was sold to a company down the road. People may have heard of Guinness. And that's all I've got on that beer. But,
yeah, it says here that it's
fun beer.
It's Ireland's most loved beer, except for I think, and maybe it's the best selling beer in actual Ireland, but. If you look at actual, sales, not just there, but just everywhere, Guinness blows them away. But yeah,
they like their red ales in especially in Dublin. The entire city of Dublin is built around the next pub. Like, how far did you have to walk from the last pub you were at to the next pub, and what did you go there for? And it's an interesting place.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question for you. You recently had a vacation. That was the first time you missed time on this show.
Yes.
But away from the show, what was your favorite part of your recent time off?
We went snorkeling. We went to Hawaii, for those people who are listening to this that didn't listen to the show when I got back. We went to Hawaii, and my favorite part of that trip was we went snorkeling, and so we, got on a boat, and the boat took us to what is an underwater state park. So basically, everything's preserved, and you're legally not allowed to touch anything, but you can swim with the fish and all the fun stuff, and that was tremendous. And nice. I sunburned the crap out of the back of my legs. I don't even care.
That sounds amazing. I love Hawaii. I haven't been for about 6 years now. Love to get back there. And my favorite island is definitely Maui. But you were on the Big Island. Mm-hmm. You saw some volcano stuff.
Yeah.
You peered down into the lava lake of what is it? Kilauea.
Mm-hmm.
So how was that?
That was cool. There wasn't lava. Everything had kind of cooled. There was like a eruption warning because pressure was building and they're expecting it, but we never actually get lava. But there was just tons of steam and volcanic gases and stuff coming up through there. And yeah, I mean, it was cool. Like,
yeah, the landscape there, it just looks like no other place.
Yeah, it's so weird on the island because you'll be like driving, down the island, and it'll be like, what you think of as Hawaii, like just lush and trees everywhere. And then all of a sudden it stops and it's just black lava rock with very little growing on it because it's solid for like a mile. And then it goes back to being trees and stuff. And then you start looking at it and it's like, oh, you can see it's not just that spot. It's from the mountain all the way to the ocean is just black because that's where, the lava ran through it, and it hasn't been long enough for for the erosion to break it down for plants to grow there again. And so it's just weird.
It is weird. And it's hard for me to even fathom how they put a road across it because it's not level or anything. It's just all jagged and uneven. Mm-hmm. And then there are, like on the, what would be the southwest corner of the island, there's a big, huge lava flow. I mean, and it's pretty wide, like 6-7 miles wide or whatever. And they have houses down there and they're built right on the lava, on stilts. And so it's an uneven stilt situation, even like one stilt will be, 4 feet high. The next stilt will be 8 feet high, depending on what it's landing on. They have no underground sewer, no plumbing whatsoever. So everything's on the surface. They have retention tanks and all that stuff. It's pretty wild.
What's weird about that is also in that area where you're talking about, there's a fissure in the lava in the rock, which runs across the whole like 6-mile section, and there's houses out beyond that. That fissure is there because the rock is slowly breaking under its own weight, and at some point it will crash into the ocean and probably unleash a massive tsunami that heads towards us. But
whoa! Did not know that. Did you hike in a lava cave?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yep. While we were up there.
So how did the kids like that?
Kids did not go on this trip.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Well, we left the kids with my parents and took a vacation. Be amazing.
Wow.
And
you took a
real
vacation.
We have not done that. We straight up just haven't. The last trip that we took without kids was, well, Caleb's 14, so probably
14,
18 years ago. So it was needed. It was fun. We loved it. It was just
Okay. So I have a question related to the beer. So I gave you the choice this year. Last year I chose what type of beer samples that we had on the show this year, and you chose Irish Amber. Was that just being kind to me, or were you genuinely curious?
It was mostly being kind to you. I mean, I was
looking forward to the Moose Droll this year, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I mean that's another option. You like the ambers and the reds. I'm okay in that range. I love porters. which are darker. I get up into the stouts. Most people will say that's too heavy. It's, a little too rich for them, but that's where I drink. Is I love a good porter. But I can handle an Irish red anytime. Anytime. These are good. This one in particular, it's not surprising that the best Irish red ale is from Ireland. And
yeah,
this
I
is
like
tasty.
this one. Yeah, it is tasty. I have one more quick question, and then I'll let you go for a while. We've been doing this show for 9 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
We're up to this is episode 673. Prediction. Can we make it another 9 seasons?
Another 9 seasons.
That's so out of left field. It's crazy.
Yes, we can. Will we? I don't know. How close are you to retirement, Bill?
I don't plan on retiring for a while because I like to be active and work, and I don't see myself as slowing down at all. So probably another 10 years or so, 10, 12 years.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 12 years away from, the earliest time I could retire. So I think we could do this for 12 more years.
12. Oh, you raised the ante. Nice. 12 years.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
That's a good question. All right. So, let's see. Should I stick to, let's stick to football, for now. Who is Seattle's most essential player?
Sam Darnold.
Really?
We've turned this team over to, I mean, you can say the defense all you want. The way that Mike McDonald structures this defense and this scheme is it's a team defense. There's not like one person. Now you can say Devin Witherspoon is the most important player on the defense because he does so much. He aligns in so many different spots that the defense is really built to suit him in essence. But on offense, nothing operates unless the guy that's going to touch the ball on every single play is operating at, an elevated level. And I think we handed the keys to kind of an unknown situation this year. We moved off of Geno Smith. I thought the way that they moved off of him and how that all turned out was fine. We were going to have to do it sooner or later. You had to make a decision whether or not you were going to pay him and for how long, and it just became untenable. So the two sides part. We end up with the best possible case scenario given that circumstance, and Sam Darnold essentially falls in our lap at the same time, like the same week that Geno leaves. Sam Darnold, it happens to be free agency beginning, and we signed Sam Darnold on the first day that you could legally talk to agents and players. And so that turned out. Now Sam has one really superb season, and it happened to be last season with Minnesota. Throws for 4,300 yards and 30 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. That ratio is amazing. And he just had a Pro Bowl season. And then they didn't want him back because they'd already drafted McCarthy. And so he's available. Normally he wouldn't have been available. Normal teams would have re-signed Sam Darnold after a season like that. So the unknown is that he's only done it for one season, and we have a new offensive coordinator. So I think it's super important that it's Sam Darnold, to answer your question, because without Sam having a really good season, really fitting into this offense, getting all the players involved, being good at all the different things, having the leadership quality that he does have, super, super important that he be successful. Because if he is not successful, this team isn't going anywhere.
So I would go in a different direction for that question. I would say Charles Cross. Because if Sam Darnold does poorly, he gets benched. and we see Drew Lock. And Drew Lock's not a great quarterback, but is the drop off from Sam Darnold to Drew Lock that much? Could the offense still work with Drew Lock? I think it can. Not as well, and maybe not well enough to get you to the playoffs, but it would still work. If
That's
you
like
lose
Kyle Shanahan-ish kind of talk that you've got going on there.
where
you could have a quarterback-friendly offense and almost anyone can do it. I don't necessarily agree completely with that.
My thought is, I don't think that Sam Darnold is so good he's irreplaceable. And they upgraded significantly at backup quarterback, going from Sam Howell to back to Drew Lock. And so I think that the drop off is, it's there and it's significant. That's why they spent the money on Darnold. But I think it's far less than it is from Charles Cross to anyone else who might play that position for them.
Well, that certainly is true. If you want to put it in those terms, we could probably have a conversation about a few different players. Certainly
Ernest
the team.
Jones.
Yeah. When you're talking about Michael Jarrell being your starting left tackle, if Cross goes down in week 1, that's going to significantly impact the team. There's just no question. There's
no way around
going the entire season with Michael Jarrell. We're doing one of those moves that we did with Houston a few years back, where we got a starting left tackle at whatever cost.
Traded for Dwayne Brown mid-season.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So, okay. How you doing on your beer? You ready to transition?
I'm almost, and
probably need to slow down. We'll
probably need to slow down because if I keep drinking at this speed, I'm not going to make it to the end of the show.
Okay, you got another question, or I can give you a rapid fire session.
Let me give you one to let you talk for a while. So your parents were season ticket holders when the team existed, right? Right from the very beginning, and you went to a lot of games. Give me a story from your experience at a game during, let's say, like the 80s, the Kingdom, and the Chuck Knox era, and like, what do you remember about going to games there and in the old Kingdom?
It was a fantastic experience. And there's a lot of debate going on these days, especially around Seahawks season ticket holders and Seahawks fans, whether you take kids to games and so forth. It's become so expensive too for most families that it's harder to take families to games. So I feel very privileged to have done that. I think really, if we're just going to talk about impact first and foremost, I was 11 years old in 1976. That my age is no secret. And walking in, now we had taken a tour of the Kingdom prior to the season. So I was in the building once prior, but being excited for the first game and not knowing what to expect. I had not, I don't even think I'd gone to a Mariners game. I'd been to a couple of AAA games in Tacoma at the time. But big stadiums, filled with a bunch of people. I think I went to a Husky game, but back then Husky games were, might be 20,000 people or, 15,000 people in the stands during those years. And so I walked into what was the Kingdom, the very first game, and this place started filling up, and we had fairly decent seats. We were on about the 20-yard line, 7 rows back from the front. So, section 100 level seats. And they were fantastic. And I just remember the overwhelming experience of having that place fill up, and the noise and the energy of what that turned into. Because that's what really left the massive impression on me and made me want to keep coming back over and over again, because when you had that many people cheering for one thing, it was just phenomenal. The energy and the movement and the vibration of that building, as people that have been in that kingdom know. And we were on a section of bleachers that were temporary. So they would remove them for baseball and they would bring them in for football. And these things shook, rattled, and rolled. So people figured out you could stomp on them. And they would generate this racket that you couldn't even hardly stand. So you would just jump up and down and pound on them, and these seats would just shake and just radiate mass quantities of noise out into this building. And of course, it was domed and concrete, and it just echoed, and it was crazy. And the other thing I remember, and not specifically so much about the team on the field, I fell in love with Jim Zorn. Obviously, I fell in love with Largent and David Sims and Sherman, the running back, and Steve Niehaus, the first draft pick the team ever had, and Patera, the coach, and he came from Minnesota, and that was one of my favorite teams at the time because we didn't have a franchise, and he was under Bud Grant there, and so it was just kind of fun to see all these players, and then we won a couple games. I mean, you just didn't win right away, but things got more interesting as the seasons progressed, and I was introduced to the phenomenon that became known as Bill the Bear Man. And Bill the Bear Man started, I don't know how he was just a larger than life character. So I'm like 11, 12 years old, and here's this like beer vendor that's carrying this box of beers in front of him. Beer, $5, beer. Right. But this guy was such a fan himself that he started making the Seahawks sections like face off each other, like this section against this section. First, it started like side by side. Okay, you guys are making noise. You guys make more noise, blah, blah, blah. And then he had such a booming presence and voice that he got the attention of the opposite bleachers on the other side of the field. And he would say, "You guys, when I say C, you say Hawks." And that's how that started. So we said, C, and the other side was Hawks, back and forth. And it was just crazy. And eventually that turned into the Wave because he started that. He saw that I think the University of Washington started it really. And that became a phenomenon. I mean, that the Seahawks thing, it was kind of hokey, right? But Seattle perfected it. Like they would have like 5 or 6 waves going at the same time around the stadium. So it just became this true wave of like noise and energy and stuff. I mean, for a 12-year-old, that was phenomenal. I mean, that was really like the pinnacle of being a fan at the time, was because the football on the field, the brand of football itself was not good, but the fan experience was totally worth the ticket. I mean, it was phenomenal. And I will say this, season tickets at that time were $15 a seat. And it was on between the 20 and the 25 yard line, 7 rows back from the field. That's where their club seats now, those things are worth, $3,000 a year or whatever, each seat. But back then it was a bargain. That's it. Sorry, I took a long time to answer that. I apologize. When I asked that, I'm like, you're going to talk for a while. Go. and also, if my parents are watching, and they often do, thank you so much for all of that and introducing me to the game and the team and the experience, and it turned it into a lifelong love for playing when I did, and then being a fan, and then ultimately leading to this experience and having a show, and it's been phenomenal. So thank you. All right. Are we ready to pour another?
We're ready to pour another.
Okay.
So, what's your second
Why
beer?
don't you tell me? Yeah, okay. My second beer is going to be from a local brewery in Phoenix called Fate Brewing Company, and they have an Irish Red. And it's a 5.4 ABV. It's malt focused red ale with subtle sweetness and a rich toasty finish. That's from their website. So we're going to find out.
Cool. My second is from it's not really local to me, but it's local to where I grew up, which is not far from here. And so from Silver City Brewing, which technically is in Bremerton, but they call it Silver City because of Silverdale, in Kitsap County, North Kitsap. That's kind of where I called home for the first 18 years of my life. And I have their Ridgetop Red Ale. It's their Irish style red ale. It's 6% by volume as far as alcohol, and this is one of the few beers of theirs I have not tried. And so when they had it and I could buy it, I'm like, even if there were other options, I was going to buy this one because I don't live up there anymore. I haven't for 30 years, but it still kind of feels like a hometown thing for me.
Nice.
So,
well, mine ended up pouring without too much of a head, which is fine. It's a little flat. It's not, it might be purposefully a little flat. It does have some bubbles and all that kind of stuff, but it looks good. It's a great color.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
All right. It's your turn to ask a question.
I'm just going to do a couple rapid fire things. I've got like 5 rapid fires. Unrelated. Well, one's related to the Seahawks. Favorite streaming show right now? What are you watching? If anything.
The show that I'm watching now is actually one from 2008 at that range. It's called Leverage. It's a bunch of, if you ever remember the movies like Ocean's 11 and those where it's like elaborate, cons with a lot of people. It's a team of people that's what they do. And except for that, they've basically made their millions. They can retire. And so then they turn their attention to corporations and the jerks of the world, and they rob them blind, help people. But they're doing it with this big, elaborate Ocean's 11 style con. And it's fun. It's just pure fun. I don't watch a lot of TV like ever about anything. But this is one that we watched a little bit when it was new, and we've kind of come back to it just because it's fun.
That old Robin Hood theme is a classic. Mm-hmm. It is. Favorite cuisine.
Like cuisine style or food within it?
Well, food like Indian, Chinese, American, Italian.
Straight up Mexican.
Nice.
Especially kind of where you're from, the Sonoran region of Mexico. Although the seafood and stuff from the Baja area and that region of Mexico is fantastic as well. But
we just went to this specialty Mexican restaurant, Barisco Brothers. They have a truly Mexican food place that they do kind of tacos. So they have a taco place where they've got like 6 or 7 different locations. Excellent. But Barisco Brothers is a slightly elevated seafood place. And so that's where we went Friday with my daughter and her boyfriend, and had a great time. Had overpriced drinks and phenomenal food though. Like the tacos were next level, and then the appetizers were just unreal. Pretty good presentation. All right.
See, I was spoiled. I spent 5 years living in Tucson, which is half an hour from the border, and the Mexican food there is so good. And then I moved back up to Pacific Northwest, which is home. And but the one thing that's missing here is quality Mexican food.
It is so
and
true.
The best places up here just aren't close to
You
the
would
food down there.
love
And it's
living where I'm living. So I'm in Central Phoenix. So I'm literally in an area where I can walk to probably 200 restaurants, and about 60 of those are Mexican restaurants, and they're all phenomenal, and they all stay in business for a long time. And so they've all kind of been entrenched in this community and stuff. It's really amazing. Okay. Next question. Favorite type of pet, specific breed, if you want.
Well, anyone that knows me is going to know the answer is going to be a cat. And if you're looking for a breed, I would say Scottish fold ears and tortoiseshell color.
Wow. Okay. So you have to explain those just a little bit for people that don't know.
So Scottish fold ears, instead of, the big ears that, come to the point, they've like folded over. And so they're like the cats that you see that look really sad in memes. And they do that specifically just because the ears are like that. And so it just kind of gives them that look like they're begging, or they're like, how could you do this to me?
The Shrek cat. Have you seen that? Like, I think it's Shrek
I'm trying to
3
think,
or 4 or whatever. Puss in Boots.
I don't remember.
Something like that.
I don't remember enough of what his ears look like. But
funny.
yeah, and then the tortoiseshell or tortie is it's a black and brown pattern. I don't know. They're pretty. I like them. I had a tortie cat for a little bit. We basically end up with like rescue cats, right? So ones that are old and people bring them in to be euthanized to the vet clinic.
Okay. You have to stop because some people don't know that you have a vet clinic. So when you say that, you're just like, what? What's going on? What?
Okay, but even this was even before we had a vet clinic. Just my wife was a vet, and so people would bring in a cat, to be euthanized, but they're healthy, they're fine, but they're just old and they're too much, and so they refuse to euthanize healthy animals, and so they'll get signed over to the clinic and they try to rehome them. Well, they had one, this old, she was my cranky old lady, and she was, old cat, probably 6 pounds, like tiny as far as size, and they brought her in because she shed too much. And I'm like, no. And it turned out she was hyperthyroid. So as long as you were willing to give her the shot, guess what? She stopped shedding. But we only had her for about a year because she was old. And eventually, she went diabetic and then her kidneys failed. But I happen to be married to a vet. So that kind of like stuff, we can handle the upkeep and the care that's needed. But she chose me as her human, and literally I could not sit down at any point without having her like on my lap. It didn't matter where I was. You and I trying to do a show, and she would be there, and or she would, if I locked her out of my office, you could hear her scraping on the door. So
yeah.
But yeah, she just, that's that. I love the ears. I love the Scottish fold ears. I love the tortoiseshell coloring. And if I had to put all of them together, the Munchkin variety for the legs, which they're like, if you think about what, a dog, and then you shrink it down just vertically, not any other way, to make like a corgi. Now do that to a cat. Where you have this same size cat, but then it's shorter legs only. That's a Munchkin. And so if there was a Scottish fold Munchkin tortie out there, I probably would just never let it leave my presence.
Wow.
That's the perfect cat.
I've been a cat guy at times. In my life, but more dog and bigger dogs, more than small dogs. Started out with a beagle when I was growing up, from the time I was, 0 to 10 or something. And then been big dog since. And then recently, just now, dogs, we've got Maltipoo Havanese blends, and so they're nice. They're like 15 pounds. They're these white little cute dogs, and I didn't think I was ever going to be like that small cute lap type dog guy. Like, it just wasn't my thing, wasn't appealing to me, and here I am. And so it's pretty cool. Okay. Favorite current Seahawks player?
Oh, see, that's on my list to ask you. My favorite current Seahawk player is Devin Witherspoon. Absolutely.
I love Devin Witherspoon.
Watching him play, the speed at which he plays and the physicality at which he plays, despite being a little guy, is just absolutely like entertaining. It's hard to find guys that play at that speed because he does everything fast. I love watching him play.
I've got a couple that come to mind. He's probably on a short list, but I've come to really enjoy Julian Love because he's not like flamboyant and out there and talkative and just like boisterous and over the top. He's just understated, does his job really well. And when he does talk, it's meaningful. And so I love players like that in general. And he just kind of epitomizes that, as far as just classy, plays the position really well, studies hard, watches film, makes other players around him better, invests in other players, and is loved by everyone around him. So that would be my number one. More about just the personality of who he is as opposed to the play on the field, but I like the play on the field too, so that's a bonus.
See, here's the thing. When I was figuring out questions, my wife asked me, like, what questions do you have? Like, what are you going to be asking? And I told her that one. And then she's like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, and he's going to say Julian Love. Like, I already know the answer.
What? Wow. That's funny. Now, if I were to ask you again, and Devin Witherspoon wasn't an option, you glow about Ernest Jones enough to where I think maybe that might be the guy.
Ernest Jones. If you said I couldn't use Devin Witherspoon, it would be a toss up, depending on the day, between Abe Lucas and Ernest Jones. I
like Abe Lucas. I like the way that he carries himself and shows out on the field. Like, that's a dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Last question on this, quote unquote rapid fire. It's been, I like it though, because the answers have been expansive, but, this one will make you think a little bit. At least it makes me think and pause. What is the latest, greatest scientific discovery that will impact regular life? Like everyday life?
And
it's easy to say AI, but if you are going to say AI,
that's not really a scientific discovery. That is a feat of software engineering. And I think calling it a scientific discovery does not give credit to the engineers and the engineering process that have done that.
Okay. Fair enough.
I would, I would say what I've seen is the atomic manipulation of individual things on a just not even microscopic, just way beyond that scale, where they're starting to. It's not just about having the right. Computer chips works because of the imperfections in the within the silicon, right? It's the other things other than silicon that are in there, and being able to take those different elements and lining them up by actually manipulating their location during the process of forming these chips makes the chips so much better and smoother, and they generate less heat in order to do, and they can do way more. And I think that, the ability to manipulate atoms individually is something that is going to, without any fanfare, make a massive change in the way that we use computers and smartphones and stuff, because you're going to be able to do way more with way less.
I like that answer for a lot of different reasons, because it is relevant. I think it does lead to changes in the way that we manufacture things. Mm-hmm. Even like transportation or making planes lighter or whatever it is, right? So that's a great answer. You could say, well, I really like the detection of gravitational waves. Well, how does that translate, right? How does that translate to everyday life? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I don't know, but that would be on my list. But I like the idea of layering as far as like a manufacturing process. So if you're talking about the way things are made, you're using a solid piece of aluminum or a solid piece of steel or whatever. But if you can wafer thin layer those things in a pattern of down to the atomic level, things that are super strong but super lightweight, that would be amazing.
Yeah. I think that the coolest like scientific applications are things like that. But you also got to, people look at it and they go, well, the idea that you can move an atom around and you can manipulate it, it's typically done with a laser. And so you can just, pick an atom and just move it where you want it to go, which is crazy to think about doing because of how small they are. That just sounds like, so like, oh, who cares? Why would we care about doing that? It's like, it's one of those, like, people will hear that and it's like, it's out there, like, great, you can move an atom, fun. But then downstream after that discovery is the application of it. And it's 10 years between the discovery and the application, but the application is going to be huge.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that I think that's kind of lost within the scientific process. And who knows? Right now, I'm worried that we're not going to get any scientific progress for the next few years because there's zero investment, and you have to be willing to invest in the research if you want the outcomes. And people will disagree with that, but that's, everyone's got their opinion. But I think that ultimately you can't afford not to, because you don't want to be second.
If you don't
want to be
somebody else is going to do it,
because we're going to get to a point where we're chasing the Chinese, and we don't want to do that.
And we don't want to do that. So, two other follow-ups. So, what do you think of quantum computing? And maybe this ties in, but maybe not. My other scientific question, then I'll leave science alone because I know those are kind of deep and complicated. But that's kind of your wheelhouse, and I want to give you a chance to kind of show off a little bit. Why is science and the scientific method so important to us, and what's the difference between a theory and a thesis?
Okay, so those are some good questions. So quantum computing, what we were just talking about with the manipulating of atoms, is the thing that's been missing in our quest for quantum computing. And those of you that don't know what quantum computing is, computers work on diodes, right? It's back in the early computer days, they were giant vacuum tubes, but it's all ones and zeros, right? And so you change you flip the switch from 0 to 1, and then when you flip it back when you need to. So now if you're taking about a single atom and changing its state, and that becomes your diode, where you can have them be so small that they're on the atomic level, whether it is a 1 or a 0. So therefore, on your computer chip, you can have millions of them, billions of them, trillions of them. I don't know. It's going to be more like 10 to the 12th power. And
infinite, literally almost an infinite expansion of our computing power.
Yeah. And so it's a completely different thing. But quantum computing was a thing when I was in college. Like that was something that people were working on. And it was the buzzword back in, the very early 2000s and late 90s. But we still don't have quantum computing. And the reason why we don't is because we couldn't manipulate the atoms accurately enough. And we're getting there. We're getting to the point where we can start to create these chips with the atoms in exactly the right spot so we can do and achieve the promises of quantum computing.
Interesting.
And then your other question was the importance of the scientific process and all of that.
The scientific method and the difference between a theory and a thesis.
Yeah. There's got to be a way to get around anecdote and actually test things. And the one thing is you look at, there's a lot of pseudoscience out there where it's just, it sounds like it would work. It sounds cool, but it doesn't hold up to testing. It doesn't actually help. It doesn't actually create a meaningful response. And so you need to be able to have, a method for doing that. But part of that is controlling the other variables. So that way, what you're saying, you're changing A and it's causing B to change. Well, if you're not controlling for all the other things, you could be getting that result because of the other things and not because of what you're changing. And so really the method is so important. So we truly understand what we're doing and what.
So there is a proper correlation. It's not just.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so, and then you start to get into the stats and the correlation versus causation and all that stuff, but, that's not get there now. The difference between a theory, and a thesis. Well, a theory is something which is, it's the best explanation of the data that we have. That people are like, oh, well, it's just a theory. Gravity is just a theory, right? But that doesn't mean that you're ever going to suddenly fall off the earth.
A theory is generally something that's been tested and proven.
But proven is not where you want to go with that. If it was proven, it would be a scientific law, which technically they call it the law of gravitation because it's been tested enough. No one's going to fall off the earth. But a lot of things it's the best explanation of the data that we have. And we're not going to say that it's true 100% because we've left open the idea that someday we might get data that makes us rethink it. And I've heard people say things like, well, how
so
can
that's the difference between being an atheist and an agnostic.
Yes.
An agnostic leaves room for.
Yeah. It is. I've heard people say, like, how can you trust science? It's always changing. And I'd say you can trust science because it's always changing. Because when we get new information, we adapt to it. And we figure out, okay, if we have to throw out all of our ideas and start over, then we will. And we've had to do that at times. Like you look at 20 years ago, string theory was the thing in theoretical physics. Today, there's like 3 people that work on string theory still because people figured out it just didn't work. And so it's just not a thing anymore. Because once we started getting data that didn't line up and the math only worked if you had 67 different variables or certain dimensions, then you're like, okay, it can't adapt to the data that we have. So we need something better. And now you're starting to see things like quantum gravity and some of these other things that are gaining notoriety in terms of their prediction ability and inability, honestly, to predict some of these things and we don't know everything. We don't have all the data, so we can't. We need We will always need more, and we'll
that's
always be able to revise.
I mean, like you said,
Yeah.
we are where we are at the time that we are at.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean it's right. It's just, it's the best answer we have with the current
It's the best answer we
information
have
that we
right
have.
now.
Yeah. Okay.
And
What's the thesis?
Yeah. So, I mean, really, it's just a well-established idea. It's something that's not quite a theory because it hasn't been tested enough, but it's a really good idea. And so it's like, okay, I think this could be the answer. Now let's go test it. Now let's go test it. Now let's go figure out if we can test it. How do we test it? How do we control for variables? How do we completely throw it on its head and test it in a completely different way and see if it still works? That's how you go from a thesis to a theory.
The reason I ask those things is it seems like, as a society, that we've accepted a new level of truth that doesn't necessarily need to be backed up by reason, logic, and facts. And it'd be nice, I think, to have common truths, common reality as a basis for conversation so that we can talk to each other and relate, because we have the same input, we have the same output. And it just seems like we've moved away from that a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. So I had one more question.
Okay.
How's your beer?
Oh, it's good. It's good.
So remind me, what do you have?
It's the Ridgetop Red Ale from Silver City. I'm drinking it slower than the first. Silverdale, Washington. So,
okay.
You think Seattle, and you think everyone, when you think of Seattle, you think of the water and the ferries. Kitsap County is where the ferries are, where they go to when they leave Seattle. And so it's in North Kitsap, and very, very pretty area. And they've got one really good brewery. Actually, they've got a whole bunch. Gig Harbor, which is an even smaller town, has like 5, I would say, just tremendous brewing establishments. 4 breweries and a place that specializes in cider. And for the size of the town, you'd think, how is that possible for them to have that many good ones? But then you'll look at Bend, Oregon, and the level of great breweries per capita. I don't know if it will ever get higher and better than Bend, Oregon. Like
Denver's actually a city that will question that statement, but
Denver is huge. Yes. Denver is huge. So having a great number of those breweries, sure, they're huge. Look at Portland or look at Seattle. All of them have just tremendous, like large numbers of incredible brewers. But there's a lot of people there.
It's a great place to be. It's a great problem to have, right? Yeah,
like Bend, Oregon is a tiny little town.
Yes.
With tremendous brewers. Gig Harbor is a smaller, or about the same size town with a lot less breweries, but still enough to be notable. And yeah, nice. This one's really good. It's very smooth. It's very, it's 6%. The first one was 4.5. This one's 6. So it's got more alcohol, but it tastes and drinks. You could just chug this. You don't taste the alcohol. It just goes down easy.
It's 6% is pretty amazing for a red ale. Usually they're in the 5 to 6%, but that would be on the high end. I would think anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Your turn.
Okay. So, you travel a lot. So, I got some basically travel-y questions, but also, where is someplace you haven't gone that's still on your bucket list?
Yeah. Istanbul comes to mind first. I'd love to go to Turkey. There's just something about that, the food, the taste, the sights, the sound, the smells when you're walking the city. Something like that is very intriguing to me. I'd love to go to Cairo, or spend more time in Athens. Like I spent a day in Athens, and that was all for. I mean, I spent a little bit of time on outside of Santorini, Santorini, and then Rhodes and Mykonos, but those were just kind of day trips. I'd love to spend a little bit more time, be immersed in the culture there, and I love that. Just kind of sinking into a culture and walking the streets and talking to people and eating the food and drinking the wine and just experiencing it at that level. That's always just kind of my thing. But Cairo would be interesting for me just from a archaeological perspective and a history. They just put a new museum in there. I think it opened in 2023. And it's fantastic. Like if you go online, you look at the Cairo Natural History Museum or whatever they call it, I can't remember. It's amazing. Like it's just got all the things, and I would love to be able to go. And I could spend probably 2 days there just looking at all the stuff. I had a professor in college, in my world history professor, who every year took a vacation to Egypt. And he had this, I don't know if it was his friend or an associate or somebody he knew, had one of those boats. I can't remember exactly what they're called, but they're a specific type of boat that sails up and down the Nile. And he would sail up and down the Nile and go to different sites. And he talked, and this is the first time I ever heard about a place called Karnak. And he talked about how amazing it was, and seeing it firsthand in the scale of, the carvings and the cartouches and all sorts of things. And it's something that has always romanticized in my brain. Like I need to go there. I need to go there and experience that firsthand. And it left quite an impression on me. And I just haven't had a chance. So that would be a place where I'd love to go.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, you've just been so many places. I was like, I wondered what that was going to bring.
Well, the other place I will say, I've never been to Asia. Like
at all?
I need to go. No, like I need to go. I'd love to go to Japan, but I'd love to really go to like Hong Kong and Taiwan and Thailand and Vietnam. So those are kind of all on my list. If I could hit them all in one trip, I would. Just for the food and the culture and the beaches and the kind of the whole thing. I want to kind of just sink into that and figure all that out.
I'd add Singapore to the list. It's a little further south, but just culturally, it is unique. Have you been? I spent 3 months in Japan.
Oh,
I actually worked in Japan doing research there, and got to experience a lot of the, because I wasn't in a big city. We were about 45 minutes outside of Kobe, basically it was a little village, and there was a giant research lab there, and it was surrounded by, rice fields, and a little tiny like community not that far from the lab, and so really got in around the culture and around the people, and that was an experience. It's tremendous.
That's fantastic.
And that kind of has changed how I can't change because I never really traveled before. But when I travel, that's kind of what I look for. It's why we went to the Big Island for Hawaii, is because, like you go to Oahu, and, in those areas, and they're set up for tourists, right? It's resorts, it's tourists, everything's kind of built around tourism industry. And we felt we could go to Kona, and we stayed in a house, not in a hotel. So we were up on the hill quite a ways. And we got to just be in the culture and in the people and not at the tourist traps. And that's how I want to travel. That's how I want to experience places. Yeah, I'll do the touristy things. We went to the volcano. We went, scuba diving, that kind of stuff. But when we went to dinner, it was not.
But those are all surrounded by natural things.
Yeah. When we went to dinner, we didn't go to here's the the big famous touristy area. And like, no, we found a little hole in the wall that locals recommend. And that's how I like to experience places. And I feel like I've genuinely experienced the realness of the place and not just a crafted experience that someone came up with.
It's funny. So, I kind of like to do both, and I like to do both in the same trip. Like, I love to go to Rome, but I also want to go to Tuscany, and I want to stay at a farmhouse, and I want to have the family cook for me, and I want to learn, teach me how you do the cheese fromage, the all that kind of stuff, and make the sauce, and how do you make these things from scratch, and shop at the local markets and all that stuff. But I also want to see the Parthenon or whatever. So I mean, there's a blend. Quick question: do you collect anything? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
Do I collect anything? Not really. No. I'm not a collector. I'm actually someone who gets
rid of stuff.
I don't like having a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I would prefer to have experiences. I want to collect memories.
That's a lot of wisdom in that sentiment. Actually,
I don't know where that came
that
from.
I've learned over time, but I haven't.
My parents are not like that. Like especially my mom. My mom is. She keeps everything and has just tons of stuff. And I think I've just never bought into that. I've never been one of the, I don't want the stuff. I want the experience. And that it's not just like for traveling or that kind of thing. It's, my wife will ask me, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, I don't know, plan us a trip. I don't need a thing.
Yeah.
Like I want time. And so that's really kind of, but no, I don't really, I mean, I have, stuff that my kids have gotten me that I wouldn't collect if they hadn't. Like I've got a whole bunch of Star Wars Lego things that they've bought me when they were, younger, and I put those together and they're around this room. But I wouldn't have collected those or,
so the reason I asked the question is you just look behind me and I've got this collection of stuff and it struck me as when I was asking that question, it's like, oh, there's my collection. Mm-hmm. I really don't collect anything either, but I do have a collection of like sea hockey things, and it's just accumulated over the years. It's not like the sweatshirt up here is signed by Sean Alexander and
nice.
And who was the guard at the same time? Steve Hutchinson. So it's the Steve Hutchinson and Sean Alexander signed sweatshirt that I got at training camp, and it was the last year, the second to the last year they were at Cheney. To get that, standing at that fence. Remember that fence?
Yes.
The chain link fence. You just stand at the fence and they just come over. And it was so intimate because there were only like 100 people there.
Yeah. And you were only like, 10 yards from the sideline. And
exactly.
You were just right up there. You could talk to people. They would come over and say hi.
Right.
It was freaking blistering hot.
Yeah. Yeah,
I like Cheney training camps for that reason. Like now, you're back away from everything, and there's 15,000 people there. I mean, there's not, but it feels like there is. There's a lot of people, and you're back away from everything, and there's a crowd experience. Where in Cheney, it was just
I do miss the idea of going though. Like you went last year. Are you going to go this year at all?
Probably. I love going to training camp. I love just. I love watching coaches coach and guys learn, and to watch the individual drills. And you look at defensive back coach or the assistant defensive backs coach working with some young kid and looking at hand placement and where you and just watching that kind of stuff or get into the offensive.
Yes.
You get into the offensive line, and you'll see a guy go from his 3-point stance and just take one step, and they'll do it like 5 times in a row, because the coach wants them to get their foot in a particular spot with a particular angle, and they're
with
just
no loss in efficiency.
Yeah, they're in the end, the goal is to gain efficiency.
Right.
But they're just and just watching the little details. I find that fascinating, and I understand most football fans, they don't care, and
Right.
they
It's
would
like
be like,
watching
"Wow."
hydroplane races, man. You're just there for the experience. You're not necessarily there to care who wins.
Someone's foot move like for like 10 minutes. I understand, like, for most people, that's not their thing. But I love watching coaches coach. I love watching.
Well, you know how it translates. You know how that work translates.
That helps. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can appreciate that. What's the fastest you've ever been in a car or a motorcycle? And you may have to tell your parents not to watch the show.
I was still in high school.
Oh shit, that's gonna freak him out, dude.
I took a trip to Pullman to visit my sister, because she was a student over at Washington State, and a friend went with me, and we were both kind of looking at school for maybe going to school there and that kind of stuff. And on the way home, it was before Ellensburg, but not far before Ellensburg. There's an overpass like 5 miles before you get to Ellensburg. And it was coming down the hill into there. We were going 120, 125.
I just did that last week. I'm just kidding.
And it was like, I'm like, I just want to get home. Like, it's been a long week, and I'm like, screw it. And then I started to think about, like, no, let's not get arrested. And so
125, anything that happens at 125 is catastrophic.
Yeah. And so I backed way off. My speed dropped down. I was probably going 85, which that's a 65 zone. So I was still going 20 over. And that's when I got pulled over.
Oh, shit. Sorry. Oh, bummer. But, better than 120 or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that could land you in jail. Like 120 in a 65 is going to result in something.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so mine was in high school. Hi, Mom. And I had maybe it was like my after my freshman year in college, I bought my first car. Before that, I borrowed my dad's truck, and I was very safe with that for the most part. But I got my car, and it was a Celica. It was like a 2-door coupe Celica, and these things were just little rockets, and it was a manual transmission.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a fun car. It had a speedometer that went up to like 175. And I was like, does it really? Does it? So I've tried to figure that out. And so there was this road in the back areas of Kent, Washington. And this was like 1 a.m. or whatever. I hadn't been drinking or anything, just up late and returning home. And I floored this thing. There was no roads accessing into my road. I had a straightaway of probably 1.5 miles with no access at all. Fairly straight, fairly level, just a couple little dips, which turned out to freak me out a little bit. But I got it up to about 140 and encountered one of these little dips. And that was enough to like shut me down. Like, I got it up to 140 and I was like, nah, that's it. That's it. Like, that speed though was like too much. It was like, I figured out that was going to kill me if anything at all weird should jump out in front of me or whatever.
Or just those little dips is enough. You don't have enough downforce in a standard car.
It makes it squirrely. I mean,
keep your wheels on the ground.
Yeah.
And man, you're lucky, because if you get a little air underneath your car, at that speed, it'll flip you.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Well, these weren't like short dips, they were long dips, but nonetheless, it was enough. It was enough. That was enough. And I've never been up close to that since.
So I haven't either. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna create an editing problem for you. We are at 1:19:35, and I am going to leave and go to the bathroom, and I will be right back.
And then we're gonna pour our last beer.
And we're gonna pour our last beer.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll talk for a minute. So I want to start talking about Keith, because he's gone now and he can't hear it, and he probably won't listen to the episode. So I want to just say that I've been with Keith now for 9 years, and I met Keith on Twitter, and actually not on Twitter. Well, I started talking to him on Twitter, but I really started listening to 12th Man Rising, what he was writing about. He used to be the editor and main writer on 12th Man Rising. So this goes back now, quite a ways. I think he started like 13 years ago or 12 years ago, and continued to write there until about we were into the show about our first year or so. And I disagreed with almost everything he said. It's true. Like, in order to be that guy on 12th Man Rising, you kind of had to be provocative a little bit. You were trying to generate clicks, right? And so he would, have some, not necessarily over the top inflammatory, but just enough to get the clicks in. Obviously, he doesn't necessarily agree with everything that he said or was writing, but I'm talking about you. And he didn't necessarily even agree sometimes with everything he said. I'm talking about 12th Man Rising. He didn't necessarily agree with everything he said on 12th Man Rising, but he said it to get the click. And to generate some response and some feedback and some banter and so forth. And so we started kind of having, some back channel conversation stuff going on about some of the things that Keith wrote about, that you wrote about. And so that's how we developed our friendship over online. And, and then we eventually, I started talking on Twitter, and, a year and a half later, we had a podcast. But it started with just me responding to some of the outlandish crap that I thought that he was talking and spewing. I was like, I can't let that go. I've got to, correct this or whatever. And, that's how, but I was respectful. I can imagine,
absolutely.
Keith,
if
right?
You weren't, we wouldn't have the show.
Exactly. I can imagine the feedback that wasn't so respectful that you probably had to endure in writing at that position, because the volume, the amount of things that you had to create in order to meet the quotas and all that kind of stuff, or however you wanted to, I don't know if it was self-imposed or if it was imposed by the corporate end of that. But you wrote prolifically, but some of it, I didn't agree with, but a lot of people,
there's some of that I didn't agree with.
Exactly.
I tried really hard not to just hot take things and, be Skip Bayless, but I would take an opinion that I had and take it out to its logical extreme, and really just play with the idea. And it was, there are points in that experience where, I was using that platform to learn how to write. And sometimes it would be like, I think, okay, this is, I got to write about Tom Cable because goddamn, he pisses me off. And I would look, I'm like, okay, what can I come up with for data to support this? And really just push an idea farther than it needs to be pushed within a piece, because it was me challenging myself to learn how to do that better and to learn how to formulate those kind of arguments and get it down on paper. Um, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about writing and that kind of stuff, and it was fun.
Let me ask you this:
Yeah,
if you were to sit down for lunch and a young writer was really interested in breaking in or starting to write about his passion, and the passion was the Seahawks, what would be your recommendations?
My recommendation would be to go find someone whose writing you really appreciate in terms of quality, not what they say, but the quality of writing, and go read everything they've ever written.
Have you ever read Jason Quick?
Yes.
I love the way that he writes.
Yep. Do you remember Jerry Brewer?
Yes.
Used to work for the Seattle Times. I think he was started with the Seahawks, but he was a columnist by the time 2010 rolled around and I was writing. And then he moved on to the Washington Post and all of that. He was the guy that I went and found every single thing he'd ever written, including an entire book about some little girl with cancer and something that he did that had nothing to do with sports, even though he was a sports writer, and super influential in my style and everything. Just incredible talent as a writer. And then I found out later that he married one of my friends from high school.
Wow.
So I'd end up like randomly talking to his wife on Facebook, because that was back, early enough when we were still on Facebook. And then I'm like, wait, she keeps talking about Jerry. I'm like, it's just clicking. Oh, it's Jerry.
That's funny. So he was kind of a mentor for you?
Yeah, I know. Well, not really, because I never really talked. I mean, there was a couple of times that I talked to him about writing, but for the most part, it was just very much a recognizing talent and recognizing that I had a lot to learn. And this is someone who had gone to school to do that, to do the writing part, and I didn't. I went to school to be a physicist. And so he had the background of learning and the experience, and he'd been doing it for years. And I was just trying to learn and being smart enough to know that I didn't know much. And then just trying to find the person who's really good and just absorb what they do. And, not trying to mimic.
Duplicate what you can but also be original.
I wasn't trying to mimic what he was doing. I was just soaking in how he formulated an argument when he was trying to convince you of something. And the ways that he brought in little pieces, and he didn't wait to the end to give you the thing. He didn't bury the lead. He was so good at like, here's what I'm going to tell you, and then just laying it out perfectly. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things.
So it was just a composition. So you really learned a lot about composition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Each step of the way.
And that's one of the things that I would say, anyone that wants to be a writer, if you want to be a writer, and it doesn't matter whether you want to write Seahawks or you want to go write a novel, the most important thing that you can do is just go freaking read. The more you read, the better writer you'll be.
That is so true.
And yeah, I learned so much just from reading other people. Although what you're talking about in terms of like the volume, I got to a point where it was Danny Kelly, who was at the time the head of field goals, and now he's
an accomplished guy at the Ringer.
Is he at the Ring? He's still at the Ringer. Yeah. Just absolutely, guy. He's a great guy. And he and I produced more copy than probably everyone else that writing about the Seahawks at the time combined. Because we were writing 3 or 4 articles a day. And so you look at some of the, the guys that work for the big newspapers, and they're putting out a ton of stuff, and they were putting out a third of what Danny and I were doing. And it didn't really click until later, just how much we were having to produce.
Yeah.
So
wow. Interesting.
I had a whole conversation with Danny once on Twitter, and it was nothing like we talked back and forth through GIFs.
That's funny. Okay. Back to
ready to pour our last beer?
Oh yeah. Let's do that. So my last one is going to be Sullivan's Brewing Company's Malting Irish Ale. And I saved this one for last because it looked like it was going to be the heaviest, but also the best quality, like the best rated Irish ale that I could find. And I, like I said, I only have 3 to choose from at my retailer, and this was one of them. But also this one is highly rated, and it says about it: enjoy the Maltings Irish Ale, our classic ruby ale with deep malt, combining rich biscuit and gentle caramel notes. On the visual, it's rich ruby color and good foam head. The aroma, malt and fruit taste balance of blended malt hop with hop bright bitterness, good body, and a dry finish.
Nice. So I am pouring Rockware, I think is how you'd pronounce it. It's it looks like it's something that is it does not look like it's being produced for mass consumption. And just kind of looking on it, it's been it was first brewed in 1738.
Wow.
In a copper kettle and fermented in oak vessels.
That is so cool.
And it is a house ale. And so I had to ask, I'm like, I need another.
There's the Kona
Irish
Brewing Company. You probably had one of those when you were in Kona.
Oh, absolutely. We went to Kona Brewing. Can you see? Oh, that looks actually kind of dark, but in my light where I could see through it, it's very red.
We're about the same.
Yeah. I had to ask because I'm like, I had the really 2
malty,
and I'm like, I need a third, and I'm like, I need a recommendation. Like, where can I find another red? And the guy at the local store was like, hold on, and he went and found this.
Nice.
Buried in the back, and it was like,
okay. So what was the brewery again?
Trocare.
Okay.
Trocare. Traquair.
Trocare. Interesting. Fun. Okay. So happy drinking. That's our last one, I hope. If not, there's some other beer in the refrigerator. I just don't think it's Irish Red.
No.
We can go grab it. Come on, let's keep going.
No,
we're only an hour 30 into this thing. Come on,
that's
Keith.
tasty.
I
don't know if I'd call that an Irish, though. I mean, who am I to argue with the people that have been brewing since 1700? But that would taste much more like a Scotch ale to me.
Okay, I was thinking I could cheat and get a Scotch ale, and I would have a few more options at my local store.
There were a lot more Scotch ales.
Yeah.
A lot more Scotch ales available.
I have another question for you with regards to animals.
Okay.
Because this is kind of your third expertise point as a human, right? You've got football, specifically the Seattle Seahawks. You've got physics, and you're a teacher. And also you're intimately involved with your business, which is a veterinarian clinic.
Yes.
Veterinary clinic. Okay. What is the weirdest animal health case study you've encountered at your veterinary clinic?
The weirdest,
without mentioning names or anything you can identify somebody about.
God, I've got stories, but which one would be the weirdest? I would need time to actually parse that. But let me give you 2. I'm going to give you the funniest and the most aggravating. The funniest would be someone that came into the clinic worried that their male dog, had these tumors on its stomach. And so my wife went in and did her exam. And then she's like, I'm not finding what you're talking about. Can you point it out? And they're like, oh, yeah, it's this right here. And she goes, that spot, that one. Yeah. She's like, that's a nipple. It's not a tumor. She literally diagnosed nipples.
Sometimes it's as simple as that, folks. It really is.
Like, but it's a boy. Yeah. Boys have them too. So nice. that's probably the funniest story, in part because the animal was. The stories are great when the animal is okay. You know what I mean? Because you never want to see the babies suffer. And the second story that I would share is one that it's so frustrating and it just makes me so angry. Dog came in, was like having urinary problems, and they took an X-ray. Oh, it's got a bladder stone, a pretty big one. Like, we need to get this removed. Okay, yeah, we'll make an appointment. We'll get for the surgery. We'll get it done. And they never came back. And then, like 4 years later, they finally came back because it was essentially just dripping constantly. There was not
a shut-off valve.
Yeah, and they took the X-ray, and the entire bladder was stone. Basically, the dog had no bladder because there's no volume. The whole thing was just one ginormous bladder stone.
How awful.
And that one stands out just for it just seems so like the cruelty of having a dog have that be its existence. Because you think about how much pain it's in every single day.
Did that get solved?
Yeah. But they did the surgery and they removed it. And I tried so hard to let me keep that stone because it was so big. And no, I had to go get shipped off because they send all those kind of stuff to the lab to get did
you take a picture
and evaluated. I think we have a picture on here somewhere.
We can make it a screen background for the show.
A chunk of it broke off. So it's just like a part of, because it's those kind of things, they have like layers, and so they kind of break off in layers. And so like one part of one layer broke off, and I put that in a specimen jar and kept that. It's still in my classroom.
A specimen jar. You take that to school and share it?
Yeah, it's in my classroom.
So I would imagine, you've got some insight there, right? And you're a science teacher, a chemistry teacher, in that realm. And this could be fascinating for your students to learn from, and eventually maybe you create a vet out of one of your students because it's you have got some interesting things to say, and they decide to pursue a path. And
I had a former student contact me this spring, or right before school ended, and be like, "Hey, just to let you know, you were influential, blah blah blah."
Don't downplay that, man. I think you really are.
Well, and then they were like, and partly because of, of your chemistry class, like I'm headed to Pullman to get my degree and then become a vet. And I was just like, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
That's awesome. Especially coming from that particular student because, she's one of those that I just look at and I'm like, they would be a great addition to the profession, to the industry.
So that is amazing. Okay. And which leads me to one more question. And I hate to hijack these things but this thing's perfect question to follow that up. What is the current state of the quality of education in the district and state that you teach in?
Honestly, I'm not the person to ask that of, because I don't teach in a normal school. I teach in a magnet school. Now it's a public school. It's part of the district. It's part of Evergreen Public Schools in Vancouver, which is a good district with some phenomenal teachers and a really shitty district administrator or administration that has kind of lost sight of what matters. But a lot of people at the school level, including principals, that are trying to make the best of it and doing a good job of it. but I'm not at the big high schools. I am at a school that is smaller. We max out at 600 students. If we get there, we haven't been there since COVID. We just haven't been able to get our numbers up to 600. We've been in the high fours, low fives since then. And that's all 4 grades. So it's a pretty small school, and it's very science focused in everything that we do. And so it's hard for me to evaluate just how good or bad the rest of the area is, because what we do at my school is just different. And somehow, like, we've just acquired the best group of colleagues that I've ever been around. And every single one of them. That's
great. That's amazing.
Every single one of them just really cares and really does a good job and will, do what they have to do. And, I tell people, because we've had some people like they started their career there, and I'm like, I've worked at a bunch of schools. I've worked in Arizona. I've worked in Idaho. I've worked here. Like, this school is a unicorn. It really is one of a kind. And if you leave, you will understand what I'm saying, because you will understand you shouldn't have left. Because the staff's just good. It's just great. Like, everybody cares. Everyone works really hard. And, you see so much happen in terms of just teachers going, the extra mile for an individual kid who needs it or who just wants it. And so it's really hard for me to evaluate anywhere else. I'd love to think that every school is like mine, but I know better. I've taught at other schools.
Well, nonetheless, my friend, you just gave me a dose of help and confidence and hope that that our schools and our kids are in good hands, and maybe it's just one school, but it makes a difference. It really does. And the student that contacted you later and said, I'm doing this and I want to be a vet, you inspired me. That's amazing.
Well, it is.
All right.
And I mean, but it's amazing for me. Like, those things are the type of things that, like, keep me going, because this profession burns you out. It's just emotionally hard. It's physically hard. It's, people are like, oh, but you get summers. Sure. We have to get summers because we're working 65, 70-hour weeks for most of the school year. And we're doing stuff that's just emotionally heavy the whole time. And teachers burn out like freaking crazy. And summers are essential. But it really comes down to when I have those kids that are like, hey, guess what? You meant something. Like, God, that makes it worth it. It really does. And this will probably never get back to her, because I doubt she's a Seahawks fan and would listen to this. But I will say this:
she made a difference.
Abby,
she made a difference.
Yeah, say, Abby, if this ever does get to you, you made a difference for me, because it keeps me going. So thank you.
Nice. How's your beer doing? How is it?
Oh, it's awesome. This is good. Very much like the first one in terms of it's very malt forward, not hop forward. Almost sweet with the maltiness. It's a little darker, so the malt actually is a little stronger. God, it just goes down so smooth. Like, it's 7.2. This is the strongest alcohol of any of them. And honestly, you can't taste it. It's just so good.
Your sign's flashing behind you.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It should not be doing that.
It just started doing that. Yeah, mine's kind of the same. Like, I'm glad I finished with the Sullivans, because it is, I can appreciate the quality of the ingredients, the hoppiness, it doesn't have a lot of bitterness at the end. It's just full bodied flavor wise and malty wise and caramel and yeah, it's good. There's not a lot of fruitiness at all in it. It's more earthy, I would say, but it's really good. I like it. I think it's your turn. I think we've been on my questions for a while. So,
well, we've been kind of just talking about random stuff.
Yeah, we have. That's been a good show. I like it. Hope everyone else does. But
when are we getting our matching Seahawk tattoos?
Oh, I am void of a ink of any kind on my body. So maybe we'd have better luck getting matching posters or something. I don't know. Like, inking your body for me has just been one of those things where nothing, and not even the Seahawks to this point, have made it so that I feel like I need to put it on my body and have it be a permanent decision at a moment in time where, it could be weird. Like back in the day where I bought a Lofa Tatupu jersey, maybe I decided to tattoo Lofa Tatupu on my arm, right? Would that have been the best choice maybe? I mean, at the moment he was amazing. And then, he's a great guy, but also I don't necessarily feel like I need to have his number or likeness on my body. So I'd have a hard time, I think, because I just don't know if that's the right artistic impression that I want to have speak for me, for example. I don't know. It's more philosophical for me than it is. And maybe I'm thinking too much about it, or maybe not enough. I don't know. What do you think?
I just got my either 8th or 9th tattoo. I don't know. I've had
You're a sailor, dude.
Which you'd think, but the thing is, it's so normal now. And people are like, oh, like teachers have tattoos. Yeah, almost a bunch of people in my building, we all have tattoos. Even my principal's got a tattoo. It's just not a thing like that it used to be. And I was in my late 30s. I think it was 38 or 39 before I got my first one. This wasn't a go out and get it because I turned 18 and I can. It's rebellion. I got one it's right here. It's over my heart. It's a phoenix, and in the flames of it, if you look closely, you can see my wife's name. And so it's very meaningful for me. And that was my first. And then it was sort of addictive. And I got my my dragon on this shoulder, and then my homage to science and how important that is to my life, in terms of my my cat on this shoulder. And then we got my wife and I got matching tattoos of Schrodinger's cat on our back shoulders. So there's the alive of half and the dead half. I remember
that one.
And then I got my wedding ring tattooed on a couple of years ago. That was cool. And then I got a matching tattoo with a friend of mine, a Seahawk fan. You see it? Oh, right there. It's blue and green, and it's a Seahawk. And she's a friend who has been battling cancer for years, and I think she's had 28 surgeries since her diagnosis, and has been getting matching tattoos with people who support her and whatnot. So it's very special to get, that one, and just like the matching one with my wife, like that one's really special to me. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just been
a part of your
been one of those things
life
where, but people I'll go be halfway through the school year, and students that didn't know me before the school year will find out that I have a tattoo, and I'll be like, oh my God, really? Because I don't show them. They're not all visible, which isn't actually true anymore. It's been true up until I went to Hawaii. And now I've got one that's actually more visible. I got one when I was there.
Nice.
And it drops down it's a manta ray, and its tail drops down to my elbow, and so it will get below the just
Did
that
you
single.
See a manta ray?
Yes.
In Hawaii?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So hold everything. So talk to me about the snorkeling experience and seeing a manta ray, because I've been to Hawaii like 15 times and I've never seen a manta ray. And if I did, it would freak me out. Like I would be like, oh my God. Now I've swam with turtles and with big fish but the turtles have been amazing, like as big as me,
Mm-hmm.
And families of turtles have just surrounded me, and you're not supposed to touch them. So I don't, I just float there.
You're not supposed to be within 20 feet of them.
Well, when they come up to you, there's nothing you can do except for just be still. And it's truly a life-changing moment, really, if you are in that. But talk to me about the manta ray.
Yeah, so you go out at night, and you basically there's it looks like an upside down canoe that has a bunch of lights, so it shines down towards the bottom, and you just hold down and watch, and they kind of move you around until you find one, and they come out and they move around, and they're huge creatures, and yeah.
So
something about it
just was like, wow.
Yeah, something about it just absolutely spoke to me. And so, yeah, just a cool thing. So I've got a big manta ray on my arm. Like I said, the tail of it drops down. Actually, it's like the one thing that's below the sleeve line on my shirts. And so people that are looking will just see a black line, right? Because it's that's the only part. But
nice.
But yeah,
it's interesting, our animal encounters as humans. We interact with our cats and with our dogs, and I sometimes marvel over just that, where it's like, well, I can't even believe I'm next to a creature who depends on me and loves me and looks at me, and like there's a communication that's there. But the interacting with something out in the wild is a completely intense moment, and it can be anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I was a very outdoorsy kind of naturey kid growing up. And so I've had a couple encounters with bears and, that kind of thing. And people made a big deal out of it. I'm like, I don't know. It's just what happened. Like, they were there. And it wasn't until I was older that I started to realize that, that's actually unique. It's not something that everyone gets a chance to experience. But I'm just out for a hike, and here comes a bear coming down the trail. And I go, oh shit, well, now what do I do? And I freeze, and it sees me and goes, oh, I guess we're not going this way anymore. And it turns and goes off the trail. And I keep going, and it's just, it's things like that. And I'm like, that's just weird. And then, I don't know. I just look for those kind of experiences when I can now. So things like going snorkeling and just being around the fish and the turtles and that stuff. Like I felt like I had to. Like, it's just cool to go be there and be respectful and don't touch anything, don't ruin anything, and don't leave any mark, but just experience them as they are.
Yeah, I love snorkeling in Hawaii. It's one of my favorite things. Okay. I haven't asked you any. Well, I've asked you one or two Seahawks questions, and now I'm going to kind of get into it a little bit. Do you believe that the Mike Macdonald, Pete Carroll decision was the right move? And do you believe that he is the right coach to build a Super Bowl winning team?
At this point, yes. I think the Pete Carroll thing had run its course. I love Pete. Absolutely love Pete. He's a fantastic coach, but an even better leader of men, right? His ability to create a culture and to get the best out of people, and to really not ask the people to buy into him, but for him to buy into his players. and not just on a football standpoint, but just like personally. I think he's one of the greatest coaches of all time in terms of doing that kind of stuff. But I think the Pete Carroll thing in Seattle had run its course. His loyalty to certain coaches meant that this team was not going to be effective, was not going to win, and that kind of stuff. And that we reached a point where it was time.
I'll be right back. Can you talk for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, so with that, I was sad to see Pete go because I respect him a lot. I think he's a great guy, a great person. And that, but as a fan, I want to see wins. And it was time. It really was. I didn't want to admit it until it happened, but once it happened, it's like, okay, it was time. McDonald is young. He's learning. He's figuring this out. We'll see. But I like what the team did last year. They were awful at the beginning of the year, and especially that defense, it got better and better and better. And by the end of the year, you could see how well coached they'd become. And that tells me a lot. And the fact that he looked at the offense and was like, okay, we can't redo that because that was a disaster. And he went and found a bunch of really experienced coaches. We're talking about a coach with not a lot of experience because he's young. I mean, he's been coaching for a while, but he's only going into second year as a head coach, and third year. He only had 3 years as a coordinator before that. And he hired some coaches that have like 25 years of experience in the NFL. And a lot of young coaches won't do that because they're worried about, they want to, it's their team. They want to maintain control and all of that. You don't want this super experienced coach coming in and saying things that contradict you because it just hurts your image and your standing with the players and that kind of stuff. But he didn't shy away from that. He hired Leslie Frazier the first year. I mean, that's a guy with millions of years of experience. And
I forgot he was still hanging around this season too.
Yep. And then they went in this year on the offensive side and did the same thing. Now, Kiffin is not Kiffin. God damn.
That's funny.
Kubiak, that's what we were talking. Kubiak is young, but the assistants that he brought in are guys. They've been around for as long as McDonald's been alive, and it takes a lot to have to bring in someone that they know their stuff, and they because of their experience, because of their knowledge base, because of what they've done, if they contradict you, it will really hurt you in the eyes of the players. And so, like I said, a lot of young coaches they're not okay bringing in those really experienced guys for that reason. They're trying to maintain control of their team, and McDonald didn't shy away from it at all. And he is confident that he can get the coaches to buy into him. And then that will get the players to buy into him because they'll buy into his coaches. And that says a lot to me. It really does. And so I think that what I've seen from him in terms of the defense last year and what he's been willing to do and those kind of chances that he's willing to take and just kind of put his own ego aside and be like, I need the best people. Even if it's a risk to me professionally in terms of someone who might stand up against him. I like that. I like that he's willing to do that. And, we'll see how the season goes and all of that. There's reason to worry as far as the personnel moves. But as far as the coaching side of it, I've been very happy with what he's done. As a coach in Seattle. And I think that given what I've seen, I have no reason to doubt him as a guy that can lead this team to a Super Bowl.
So it's interesting to me. And some people agree with all this stuff, and some people I don't know, just aren't completely bought in. But I was really impressed with the first season, but I was even more impressed with the pivot in February, where he moved off something that wasn't working. Instead of running it back and maybe some tweaks and reinforcing the message that he needed to make on that, and another year of experience for Grubb, the first year of experience, that would translate somehow into, a difference making for the offense. Instead, he immediately fired that crew, which needed to happen. But he didn't hesitate. He did it. And then he methodically went through the process. He wanted to go through the process of that offensive coordinator search and finding the right team, I think, not just the coordinator, but he wanted to make sure that the coordinator was also going to bring in the best people to surround him. And John Schneider. So John and Mike McDonald, I thought, worked in sync really well together. That was so encouraging. Like, that doesn't happen regularly in the NFL. Like, there are times where that's a adversarial kind of situation, and that's not the case here in Seattle. So that was reaffirmingly good for me. And then the choice, which we saw, I think, as being Clint Kubiak early in the process, but he let that situation play out anyway.
Yeah.
And then came back to the right choice, I believe. Now, we could be proven wrong and so on and so forth.
There was no rush to,
until there was at the end, right?
You look at the end at the list of guys, and honestly, he was the right choice. He was the right choice from the beginning. That's why you and I locked onto him before the process started of them identifying people. He was the guy. And they ended up there, and that's great. But I like the fact that they didn't just rush in and do it. They wanted to see, let's talk to other people. Let's see what's out there. Let's listen to people and see what they have to say.
And it's all intel. If it doesn't go that way, you've got all the information on all the other coaches in the league now.
Yeah. And so I respect that. Now, it would have been different had the slow approach meant they didn't get Kubiak. They'd lost out on him because someone else grabbed him. Then I'd probably have sung a different tune, but it worked out in their favor. They got the right guy. But they did it without rushing. And this is one of the things, like with Pete Carroll, that was frustrating, is when it was time to pick a new offensive coordinator, because they'd finally moved on from Darrell Bevell. He just went and grabbed Brian Schottenheimer and hired him. There wasn't a process. He just identified a guy whose primary qualification was nepotism.
At the time, he's since
actually, that's
created his own opportunity.
That's actually not completely true. He's a fantastic quarterback coach, and I think that was probably why he was hired. But as an offensive coordinator, he's never been good. He even still isn't good, and he's now a head coach. But that had more to do with hiring the quarterback coach, which your quarterback really loves, to try and get the most out of the quarterback. But he just identified a guy, went and hired him, and didn't go through any kind of process, and just basically went on the recommendation of friends.
It's true.
To the nepotism route, and hired them. And then when he, it was the same kind of thing. Like they switched from Dan Campbell to Chris Richard, because he was the guy that the Legion of Boom said needed to be the guy. And he kind of earned it because of his coaching. Chris Richard's a fantastic coach. As a position coach, he's probably the second best I've ever seen. So he got the job. And then when it was time, when they were like, okay, this isn't really working, and they moved on for him, they just went straight to Ken Norton Jr., who was the other guy that was up for the the job when it was given to Chris Richard, there was no process. There was no attempt to,
He just
bring in
wanted to
other
run it
guys,
back.
bring new ideas. It was just, we need a coach. This person's available. Let's hire them. And I didn't like that at any point.
That was the beginning of the end, really, right there.
Yeah.
I like Ken Norton, and specifically as a position coach for linebackers.
That's right there. Remember, I said Chris Richard was the second best position coach ever. Ken Norton was the first. I got to tell you, training camp when Ken Norton was the linebackers coach was an experience, because just watching him teach football to those young players was a phenomenal experience. Like, that guy could teach. He knew how to be a linebacker. I mean, he's a freaking Hall of Famer. Maybe he's not, but I don't remember. But I just know that, like, that's my opinion of him. And as a coach, it was great. But as a coordinator, he didn't really grasp what every position was doing.
It's so true.
He was very smart about linebackers and linebacker play, and a little bit with the defensive line and how what they could do could help the linebackers, but he wasn't good at getting the most out of his linemen. And I don't think he had much of an idea of what to do with defensive backs. And he just going to lean on Pete Carroll for that. And Pete Carroll had ideas that were outdated, and the NFL had moved past, and it wasn't a good combination. And I think that they needed to have gone in another direction. But he was trying to be loyal to his guy. And a guy that had been with him for a guy that had been with him for a very long time. So I understand that. I totally do. Don't deny Ken Norton his opportunity, right?
We go through the process and then choose Ken, and then we all feel better.
Yeah. And I think that if they'd done that, you would have gotten to see that. Well, I think he would have seen that maybe Ken's not the right guy. God, there's so many different things that he has that we like about him, but he doesn't have he doesn't have the game planning, the schematic knowledge outside of his position group that you need.
Or you bring in a guy like Leslie Frazier with Ken Norton, and you say, okay, we brought in Ken Norton. He's the defensive coordinator, but Leslie Frazier, he's going to be our quality control guy and also assistant head coach. And that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, or you can bring in a guy that you really like to be a successor eventually and kind of, but he never really brought in anybody. And so it eventually just died out. Like, he just ran out of people that he knew that could keep running the same thing back over and over again. How you doing on time, A, and B? I've got about 7 Seahawks related questions left that I could fill up some stuff, and I'm doing fine, by the way.
I'm getting to a point where I'm getting close to having to make bathroom break number 2. So I think at that point we should probably quit. Well,
that's disappointing.
Let me ask you a quick question before you circle back to me. You go to a lot of concerts. You go to a lot of shows. That's kind of your thing. You're an audiophile. What band that is no longer touring do you regret not being able to have ever seen?
Ever seen? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I've got 2. First of all, I want to make a statement about the current state of affairs in rock concerts. So I have been to a lot of shows. I've traveled to go to different shows. I like going to live music. It's one of those things that that inspires me, that I get joy from, all that kind of stuff. With that said, ticket prices, and everyone's going to relate to this, have just gone out of control. Like, you used to be able to see a good show, and I'm not trying to be nostalgic, and I'm an older guy, I get that, all that. But everyone, I don't care what age you are, will agree that ticket prices are just out of control. And like a good seat, like front, and I'm not talking about premier seats. I'm talking about a good seat, like front half of the house, at any show is going to be at least $250. If not, and that's if you lucked out and got the ticket through the regular process. If you did not, and you're buying resale tickets, those can be $500, $600, $700, $800. And it's stupid. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that resale stuff does not go to the artist. So the entire process of procuring tickets needs to be reformed. And that probably translates into sporting events, Seahawks tickets. Now, buying Seahawks tickets is extra for me. So I live in Arizona in Phoenix, and I don't have season tickets. I have two tickets to the Seahawks game, September 25th. And I got good seats, and they were like $200 a piece. And I'm on the 40-yard line, about 25 rows up from the floor, from the playing surface. And in Seattle, those tickets would go for easy $1,200.
Yeah, easy.
In addition to that $1,200 for those tickets, you would be really lucky to park within a mile. And that parking to be within a mile is like $100. Mm-hmm. Now I can park across the street from the stadium parking, and I like to do that just for escapability at the end. I pay $25, and that's literally like less than a tenth of a mile walk to the front door of the stadium. So it's a much easier experience in Arizona. And Seattle, it used to be so easy until they decided to somehow build condos and businesses in the parking lot and take away all the parking. Like, what? Like, there's no place to park. So that's one aspect. And the other aspect is just the cost. So concert wise, just to get to your point, I really wanted to see the Rolling Stones when they were big and never did. I really wanted to see The Who for the same reason, same sort of band, like iconic British band. Would have loved to have seen them live, did not. Led Zeppelin, same sort of thing. I've got a built-in excuse for Led Zeppelin in that John Bonham died and they stopped touring and being a band after like 1980, whatever. And so it didn't work out that way. I did recently see Jason Bonham and Led Zeppelin Experience, who I would highly recommend. John's son is the drummer in the band, and they are excellent.
I've seen them perform. They were fantastic.
I was in the first row of that show here in Phoenix about 2 weeks ago, and it was something else.
I saw them perform at, I think it was at Ridgefield in just north of Portland. Maybe not. Maybe it was there. I don't remember. I just know they were fantastic. Went to see them. I don't even remember who they were playing with. They were opening for someone, and they were by far the better show.
Yeah. And, I saw them open for Whitesnake like 6-7 years ago.
Was that up here?
That might have been, and yeah, I think that was. I remember gone together.
I remember seeing Whitesnake, and they were awful.
Yeah,
they were just gross.
They were tired.
Wait, was that also there? Those two bands opened for Foreigner. Foreigner was the headliner.
I mean, it could definitely have happened. I mean, all those bands are kind of in the cycle.
It's possible. I just know that Foreigner was. I remember seeing Foreigner. Foreigner was cool. Jason Bonham was surprisingly great. And Whitesnake was just absolutely dreadful.
The Whitesnake can still be okay, but they have their moments. I mean, they're all older guys, and most of it's a cover band. David Coverdale is like still, a decent singer, but he's definitely, he's not the same guy. The other band, I would have said, like, until 2 years ago when I saw them for the first time, was U2. I wanted to see U2. I wish I would have seen U2. I had a chance to see U2 like back in 1987.
Ooh, that
At
would have been
the
a
Paramount
show.
Theater, which turned into the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall in Portland. And I didn't. And in that show, my cousin ended up going and told me that Bonham threw himself backwards off the stage into the crowd, and the crowd lifted him all the way up into the balcony. And he kept singing the whole time. And I wish I could have gone to that show because that would have just been amazing. But I did see him at the Sphere in Las Vegas. And if anybody hasn't been to the Sphere yet, and I think the Eagles just completed a mega run there, but U2 completed like 60 shows there from 2023 into 24 in like almost a year there. And super, super amazing. And the sound quality is just fantastic. And it's an experience if you get a chance to go. But that's it. And the reason for my first point is that I've dropped back a little bit on my concert stuff. I think Bridget is going to San Diego, which is just a little hop, skip, and a jump from Phoenix. So it's easier. To go see Oasis at the Rose Bowl with a girlfriend from Seattle.
I did read that Oasis was touring. They like doing a reunion tour.
Yeah.
That's
so
intriguing.
it's an intriguing show, but it's they only play like 6 shows in America.
Yeah.
And LA is one of them, and it's the Rose Bowl, and there's going to be like 170,000 people there.
That's
and I'm not going because I'm not an Oasis guy. I mean, I get Oasis. I'm just not. But she's going with a girlfriend from Seattle, and that'll be a fun show for her. But the next show I have, there's this kid, and I would highly recommend him to everyone, including you. His name is Taj Farrant, and Taj Farrant appeared on the music scene, in Australia's Got Talent in 2019. So when Taj was 9 years old, and he's a guitar phenom, and he went on that show and he played some iconic, riffs, and strung them together into one performance. And I don't know what happened after that, but that was his public outing. Since then, he's been kind of a YouTube phenom, and until a couple years ago.
He's 15?
Yeah. So Taj Farrant is 15 years old.
Damn.
And this kid
you mentioned his name, so I Googled him. So I'm like looking at stuff while you're talking.
So this kid is 15 years old and just turned 15. The first time I saw him live was when he was 14, about this time last year, in a small club in Phoenix, like a 200-seat club. And he's the equivalent already, and I don't say this lightly, and if you know me, you know I don't, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Like he's a 15-year-old equivalent of Stevie Ray Vaughan, and he plays the blues, and he's just got this gift. Like he feels the music, like his timing and his execution and his riffs and the way that he interprets everything is just phenomenal. Like he's just a phenom. And so I convinced like 8 of my friends here in Phoenix to go with me to see him when he comes back to the same venue, 200-seat venue. Now he plays in these big shows now, right? But he's coming back to this thing that started it all for him here in the States, which was this little club in Phoenix, and called the Rebel Lounge. And it's like this 200-seat place. They pack him in there. It's a dive bar, and it's about 2 miles or so from my house. And this kid is just something else. And so I'm really looking forward to that show. But that's kind of what I'm into now, is just kind of smaller shows, unique experiences, and just good music. Yeah, I'm over the arena shit. Like it's not good anymore. The sound quality is crappy. The bands are tired usually that play in those shows, and they just don't give. But when you see them in a smaller venue and it's a unique thing, a unique experience, I really dig that. Especially if it's in a different country.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I go to like Spain or whatever, like I will go to a concert hall to see a guitar guy that doesn't play anything that I recognize or know, but he's the dude. And I love that. And the venues over there are so much different than here. It's pretty cool.
As I'm scrolling here, looking as you're talking, he just turned 16 a couple weeks ago.
Oh, nice. He's still crazy amazing for 16. Like if you watched it, like go watch the YouTube videos of Taj Farrant, Farrant, Taj, Taj.
Mm-hmm.
The kid is something else. Like if everyone can just go check out his latest video on YouTube, he's just a joy. Like it brings joy back to music, and everyone needs a little bit of that.
See, this is one of the things that I found it kind of interesting, and maybe it's just me, is that I feel like we've reached a point where the gatekeeping for music is falling apart.
That's
and you're
so
getting
true.
You're getting people who never would have been given a shot before that suddenly are making it big because they can just post their crap on YouTube and people find it and like it, and the record labels don't get to say no. And this sounds like one of those. It's like, I mean, yeah, he was on the TV show, so that helps. But but in
Australia, I mean, it wasn't a mainstream situation for him. He just kind of organically grew. In fact, there was a concert promoter I really respect here in Phoenix, Danny Zalesko, who is a local promoter, but he also promotes in like Denver and Salt Lake City and Chicago and a couple other places. But he promoted this kid and gave him a shot here and other places in the United States. And we just kind of took a shot. Like we like to go out. We don't go out very much to local shows, but he promoted the show, and then I looked him up and I was like, oh my goodness, this kid's got something special, and went and saw him in person last summer. And I was blown away. I was just like, oh my goodness, this guy is going to be the next Joe Bonamassa and Stevie Ray Vaughan. And it's just a matter of time, and sure enough, cool. I mean, this kid's proven to be something else. But yeah, if you get a chance to go see him in the Northwest, I would definitely go see him. It's just a guaranteed, like, jaw-dropping experience. You're just going to be like, oh my goodness.
Oh, if he comes up here, I will definitely go with this recommendation, because that's my kind of thing. Like when it comes to like I would go to see Green Day or some of the big bands from when I was in late high school, early college. I would pay and go to a huge venue and see them just for the opportunity. I would see Green
Day myself right now.
I took my kid and my dad to see the Eagles. And that was an experience because they were awesome, but also just the whole 3 generations of Myersmen, going to see this classic rock band, like that was cool.
So you created a moment in addition to the music. That brought you together.
Yeah. And that was the point. And so like, I would still do that, but I also like, I like the little things, you know what I mean? Like the people that are just doing cool music things that maybe aren't making a ton of money doing it. There was a guy I found on Instagram that is like a heavy metal singer, but he does random crap. Like he did Wonderwall by Oasis in the style of Linkin Park. And rearranged the whole song and then did all the vocals, all the guitar, everything in order to produce it. and it was really freaking good. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then he did Smells Like Teen Spirit from Nirvana as Frank Sinatra. And just the quality of vocals that you have to have. If you are going to mimic Frank Sinatra, you've got to have some serious chops in terms of vocals. And it just worked. And like things like that, like, okay, I'm not going to go to a concert for that probably, but it's a piece of, it's music, and it's something you can just see the talent, and it's just unique and it's fun. And I really respect that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But ticket prices are just, like I said, just gotten out of control, and hopefully something can be done for that. But it's, as you get older, and I speak from experience, it's hard. It's harder to find new music. It's harder to find music that you enjoy. Music has changed. It's interesting because there's a few YouTube channels that specialize in discovering new music. And I've heard this song for the first time and I'm going to analyze it, that sort of stuff. I find those shows fascinating because of, the reaction to really good quality songwriting and arrangement, composition. We talked about composition and writing. There's composition in music.
Oh, absolutely.
There is just a void of that. In today's music, it's all, anyway, I don't want to harp on that, but it's hard to find new music that really kind of fits you and suits you as an individual. And there's a lot of mainstream stuff, and some of it's really good, some of it's not good. And that's true.
Last year for this show, you asked me what my streaming service was of choice. And yes, I listen to Spotify like every other person on here, but I made a plug for Pandora because of its ability to find bands that I've never heard of that are in the style of the music that I like. And really like deep tracks, like things you'd never hear on the radio, even by popular bands, because they're on, okay, this will date me, but they're on the B side of things. And I love that. I love the finding things that are new, even if it's finding things that are new to me, that's been around forever. And I even like the band. But I never heard that song for some reason. And like, that's always been kind of a cool, like, experience. Just experience new. It's been fun.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's why I got really excited with Taj Farhan. I was like, oh my goodness. Like, it's just a joy. It's a joy to be able to find that. And, and when you do, you want to share it with somebody else. Okay. I've got a few questions. I just kind of want to wrap these up a little bit for you. Name one or two players on the roster that you're really looking forward to seeing on the field this season.
I would say Byron Murphy. I want to see his development and what he's going to do. And then the guy he's going to be playing against in practice every day. See, this is how you can tell I've had probably a little too much to drink, because I'm like, names. The rookie, the guy they drafted.
How about Torrey Horton or Nick Emanwari?
Maybe Gray Zabel. That's the guy I was thinking of. I was like, seeing those two guys line up and play each other against each other every day in training camp is kind of what I'm looking for. Emanwari, absolutely. Like, oh my God, he's going to be fun. But I'm willing to slow play him. I'm willing to let him develop. I want to see Gray Zabel and Byron Murphy go at it every day, and then be teammates that go at it at another team on Sundays.
Yeah, right.
And dominate.
That's what
people.
It's all about.
That's what I want to see. And that's what I'm really excited to see.
So would you be disappointed or happy to see Gray Zabel dominate Byron Murphy in practice?
I would be happy. One, because I think the Seahawks need Gray Zabel to be great more than they need Byron Murphy to be great. Also, I like watching quality offensive line play. But in a way, I would be a little disappointed because I have really high expectations for Byron Murphy. Going into year 2, I expect him to be really, really damn good. So I would be a little disappointed if he gets dominated in practice. But if he's getting dominated in practice, but then still goes out on Sunday and is really damn good, that would tell you how good Gray Zabel is.
True.
And I would be okay with that.
I've got a couple of statistical end of season questions for you.
Okay.
Who has a better statistical season, Damian Martinez or Kenny McIntosh?
Ooh, I want to go with Damian Martinez.
The hope is Martinez, because you always want something that you don't, but the upside seems to be higher with Damian Martinez, I would say. I mean, everyone seems to think that. But to see it play out.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. The reason I said him was the younger player. The young, because if we're talking about them as being equals and he's, 3 years younger and 2 years less experience, then he's got a higher upside.
Well, then this question is interesting because you could argue that you'd want the more experienced player to be better because that would be better for the entire offense. Maybe.
I don't know.
Who has a better statistical season, MVS, Scatling, or Torrey Horton?
That is a good question.
Because if MVS has a better season, it's actually probably a good sign that things worked out really well for Sam Darnold and the offense. If Torrey Horton has a better season, either he's amazing or something happened.
Yeah. I am going in the direction of Scantling because I think he's going to be out there day one as a contributor, a major contributor on offense.
Better than people give him credit for, honestly.
He is. But Torrey Horton, the upside on that kid is way above Scantling.
Injuries always freak me out a little bit at this time of the year when somebody has been drafted, and you can go look at the defensive, the outside linebacker, defensive end guy we drafted like 5 years ago. I can't remember his name now, from Tennessee. That didn't turn out, even though he was kind of had a second round grade, but and we drafted him in the third round because he had the injury, and then he had the shin essentially replaced in the offseason, and then we had to wait a year. Anyway, will the Seahawks
Darryl Taylor.
Will the Seahawks defense finish inside or outside the top 5 defenses in the league by DVOA?
Inside.
That would be phenomenal.
I think they're going to be 4th or 5th. I think that's where this defense.
So what you're saying is basically this defense is going to be special.
Yeah.
What's going to make them special, Keith? What's going to make them different?
What's going to make them special is the fact that they don't have a weak spot that teams can exploit. They are good at all 11 positions, all 13 positions, because you got to include all the sub packages. I think this is a special defense. I really do. Everyone from Ernest Jones in the middle.
Describe special to me. Describe special. Like, what does that entail to you?
What's special is just their ability to dictate to an offense. Because you can take away what they do and make them try and beat you in ways that they're not good. And I think that because Seattle is so good at, and just not having a weakness, at being able to do anything, stop the run, rush the passer, cover, you're going to be able to,
depending on the opponent,
you're going to be able to pick what they can't do. And that's going to be really hard for them to overcome. Because if they're a team that runs the ball really good and you're like, okay, but you're not getting more than 2.5 yards of carry in this game, beat us by throwing it. Can they do that?
And oh, by the way, Witherspoon and Woolen are waiting for you.
Yeah.
And Nwari is going to make your life miserable if you try the short game.
Yeah. And I actually went back, and not even intentionally, just watching highlights of 2013 Seattle defense, which is one of the best defenses in the history of the NFL. And I know people will say, the Bears in the 80s and the Vikings and blah, blah, blah. And then the Ravens in 2001. I put Seattle's 2013 defense up against any of them because they play in a league in an era where offenses have all the advantages and all the rules in their favor. And Seattle's defense just dominated. But I went back and watched, and you could tell what did their opponent want to do. And Seattle didn't let it happen. The 49ers.
Didn't we lead the league that year in scoring defense? And it was like 16.1 or something like that. Some crazy number, 15 something.
It was in the 15s. And
which
they had
is nuts.
31 interceptions or something crazy.
Just to give somebody a perspective, we were finished 10th in the NFL last year in DVOA, or 11th. And the back half of the year was great. I know that. We still allowed 21 points a game.
Mm-hmm. But I was looking at that and I was like, San Francisco's a good example. They wanted to run the ball. They came in with Frank Gore, Colin Kaepernick. They were going to run the football and then run play action with Kaepernick and either let him run or, have open receivers to throw it to. And Seattle goes, nah, you're not doing that. And they forced Kaepernick to put it 100% on his shoulder and beat him. And he couldn't do it because that's not who that team was.
Yes.
And then you look at a completely different game and
I forget what it was like to dictate terms to an offense.
And so you have, I don't know, I was watching the games yesterday. But they come in and they're like, we're just going to throw the ball all day long. And Seattle goes, no, you're not. Because we're going to kill your quarterback and we're going to intercept the ball 3 times.
Right. And we've got Earl Thomas on the back end. So forget about it.
Yeah. And so it's whatever you want to do, you're not going to do it. And you're going to have to be okay with that because we're not going to let you. And you have no say in the matter.
So bad again.
Now, that had a team that didn't just
that was
have...
Special. That was special.
That was special. They didn't just have Pro Bowlers and, really good players at every position and depth. They had Hall of Fame level players in a lot of positions. Michael Bennett may not make the Hall of Fame because his career was cut short. Same with Cliff Averill, but
you can say, okay, Cliff and Bennett were Pro Bowl level guys.
At least
the entire back end was Hall of Fame. The middle of the defense was Hall of Fame.
Sherman and Thomas are Hall of Famers. Chancellor probably gets into the Hall of Fame. I think he would have definitely if he had played a couple more years, but he had that neck injury.
Right.
And then you have Bobby freaking Wagner in the middle of all of that. We haven't even said his name yet, and he might be, top 3 of his position all time.
Yeah. Mike Singletary, Bobby Wagner, whatever the guy's name from the Panthers is that always gets overrated. I mean, he was a great player.
He was good, but he's not putting him in there.
He was always injured too.
I would say the Ray Lewis.
Lewis, right? Who was the other guy that was in the middle? Like Dip Buckus. I mean, it goes back. I mean, there's been some great linebackers in this league, right?
Brian Urlacher.
Yeah, right.
There's been a lot of good inside line. I mean, we're going
Bobby
back to a lot
Wagner
of history,
keeps going.
Bobby
he's still
Wagner's
playing at an all-pro level.
In there with he's like 103.
He can't cover anybody, but he can fill gaps like anybody. His instincts are just crazy.
Yeah, he's so good.
And he keeps himself in such physical condition too that he can make the tackles, which is remarkable to me.
2013, that was 12 years ago. That was when he was in his prime. That was when he was at the highest level. And that whole team.
I still can't get over he was a 3rd round pick. I really can't.
He was a 2nd round pick.
I think, no, a 3rd round pick.
I'm looking it up. I bet.
Yeah, there's been some great rosters. Okay, so I have a couple more questions for you. So, does Jalen Milroe take more than 100 offensive snaps this season, or about 6 per game average? 6 per game. That means if he doesn't play in the first 4 games, he needs to make that up.
I would say no. I'm going to go no.
That's so disappointing to fans listening to the show in hour 2.39. Come on, Keith, give some hope to people. No, I agree with you. I agree with you in that it's a hard. Sam Darnold's the quarterback, right? If Sam Darnold goes down, Drew Lock is the quarterback. Like Jalen Milroe is going to be in packages. The question is, how many packages does he get a game? Like if he gets 2, he's going to get over 6. If he gets 1 and it goes south and he's 3 and out, he might not get back in the game. So I agree with you. 6 per game is a lot.
6 per game is a lot on average because I don't think he's going to play in the first 4 games. And so now you're asking him to make that up and get to 100 snaps in 13 games.
So let me ask you this. So and I said this too, because I honestly don't believe it's going to happen, but you said he's not going to play in the first 4 games, which I said out loud as well.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for preseason? Does that mean that the outstanding stuff we do see from him, and we will, because it's Jalen Milroe and he's just that amazing in certain situations, does that mean that all of that is discounted and the team reins that back in and has a lot of discipline to not run him out on the field, to do the things that he's really good at? Or does Jalen Milroe make you put him on the field?
See, I think eventually he makes you put him on the field. And that's why he gets on the field. But I think the team's going to you're learning an absolutely new scheme, and you've got to give the snaps for the new scheme to the guys that's going to be starting. If this was them bringing him into a team that had been running the scheme for 3 years, and so when you have the time in practice, you're adding this package to something that you already do. That's different.
That's a great point.
But you're coming in and you're having to develop everything.
And everybody.
Yeah. And so you don't want to take the time away from Sam Darnold and the starters to run out this
specialty package,
this gimmick
that you may or may not work.
Package.
Yeah.
And so I could see them not doing so.
Interesting. So for anybody that's still with us, I would highly recommend a show that I did with guest Bryce Coots about 3 or 4 shows ago, where we had about a half-hour segment on Jalen Milroe. And Bryce is a quarterback guy. Like he has a quarterback academy. And he kind of went into it with Jalen Milroe, and it generated some excitement, I will say, from me, and it's a good listen. So go back and listen to that. Do you have any more questions?
I don't. I think it's
what
we have reached. I mean, there's a huge list here and I'd have to roll through them, but I think we're good.
I did have one final. How's the home brewing hobby going?
The home brewing hobby is not going. It's one of those things that has fallen off with trying to hold down 2 jobs, with the teaching and the business. It's kind of it's kind of fallen apart, which is unfortunate because I enjoyed it and it's a lot of fun. I still have all my stuff, and I will get back to it. But
you know what? I want to suggest something, and maybe you'll say yes, maybe you'll say no.
Okay.
I'm going to be in Portland on July, right when training camp starts, like July 23rd, 24th, 25th.
Cool.
Would it be possible that we set up like a home brewing thing where you and I get together and brew a batch of beer?
Yes, we could do that. I could break out my stuff. It's right there. I just need to like actually get it out and
buy some stuff and
go buy some grain and some hops, and I'm ready to roll.
That would be fun.
And some yeast. But yeah,
the unfortunate thing is I may not be able to taste it.
No,
but I'd certainly try to.
It's gonna ferment for a few days. So
yes, but you'd have to bottle it, and then I'd have to like somehow work my way back up there, which I would. I'd make a special trip to try the beer that you and I brew together. That'd be fun. So, okay. Fun show. I thought this was like, to me, and I was going to ask you this question, and I realized that you probably wouldn't be able to think on the fly of your favorite shows that we've done because it's been 9 seasons or whatever. But this has been one of my favorites, I have to say. I like the give and take and the flow and the questions and the ability to give a complete answer to everything is where you don't have any time constraints is pretty cool. So thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate
these shows are my favorite shows of the year. Because we just let go of the time constraints. We let go of like, we don't have, hey, we got to get through all the cornerbacks. Or, what we did the last show. It's just, we don't know. I didn't know what you were bringing to the show. We'll see what happens. And it's just fun. We get just to talk about stuff and it's a lot of,
and we get to try some three good beers. I would highly recommend each one of them.
Beers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would recommend all 3 of the ones I tried to people.
So the next 2 shows we've got on the horizon are a coaches show. Each year, I think we kind of trying to break down the coaches. Yeah. And I thought this year would be interesting on the coaches because we just have so many new ones on the offensive side. Obviously, we know about the defensive. We'll spend some time with that and revisit that. But the offense really intrigues me. Like, I'm really intrigued. Like I mentioned earlier at the top of the show that I was like, the offense. And I say that with I'm still bought in 100%, but there's no denying that the coaches are going to be a factor this year. Like as far as teaching, implementing, being well-rounded as far as how they approach the offense, like methodically using the offense in the way that it needs to be used to set up defenses and so on and so forth. So that'll be a fun show. And then you mentioned it, training camp preview show. We're like 2 weeks away. We're
10 days. 10 days. July 23rd. It's the 13th right now, and as we're recording, so we're 10 days out. I'm so excited for guys to put on pads and hit each other.
Yeah, it's an interesting season because there's not a lot of people outside Seattle that are giving us any chance whatsoever.
No, but Seattle's going to surprise Seattle. It will surprise people. This defense is going to be good enough to keep them in every single game.
That's the point. That's really the key to this whole thing, really. And the offense will kind of come along, but the defense is ready to go out of the gate, and it's top 5. Yeah. All right, let's get out of here. Find Keith on Blue Sky at Myers NFL. You can find me at NW Seahawk. This show is Seahawks Playbook Podcast. We've been on for 9 seasons, going into our 10th as of February. And find us on your favorite podcast platform and our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, like us, leave us a comment. We always enjoy those. So until next time, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook Podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk, Keith is at Myers NFL, and the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.